Hey up everyone! So continuing the Cannes Film Festival coverage, today's movie I'm going to be discussing on the channel is one of the movies that has made the most noise at Cannes this year. It is the new grotesque but wildly entertaining body horror from French filmmaker Coralie Fargeat called The Substance, which is her follow-up from the 2017 film Revenge. This film definitely has become one of the most exciting titles to come out of Cannes this year. Like, I saw this a few nights ago and the atmosphere in the screening for this movie was palpable. It was so much fun. Everyone was living their best life watching this movie. This is a thrilling bit of body horror, but it's also very funny and really well acted, really well shot. Like, this is a real winner. This is one of the best films to come out of Cannes this year. Before we dive in, I just want to let you guys know I have done a written review for The Substance on Awards Watch, so if you'd like to read my thoughts on this movie, I'll pop a link in the video description down below. The Substance is set in modern day Hollywood and is centered around the character of Elizabeth Sparkles, played in this film by Demi Moore, who is a former movie star. I think she won an Oscar, she was really big back in her day, and sadly her star has been fading over the years. The film actually opens with a bird's eye view shot of Elizabeth's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and it's like a time lapse of her star, like cracking, having garbage thrown on it, like people just ignoring it. It's basically just a metaphor for saying that her star has been fading as time has marched forward. Director Coralie Fargeat also wrote the screenplay for Substance, and in the script she's taking shots at the Hollywood machine, how Hollywood treats its female talent, the pressures put on women to expect it to be perfect, how we feel about aging, and also how as a society at large we put so much stock and value in youth and beauty, and how that has a detrimental effect on us. I mean, who of us hasn't looked in the mirror or at old photographs of ourselves and longed to go back to that time when we felt our most sexiest, our most desirable, our most confident? And that's kind of the premise of the film, because the fears of aging, irrelevance, and loneliness are all pretty universal. But when you're a woman who's been working in the entertainment industry for most of her life, those issues are magnified tenfold. In today's youth-obsessed culture, there is a lot of pressure and expectancy placed upon women, and men as well, but I'd say more so women, to maintain their beauty and youth for as long as they can. There is a lot of maintenance and upkeep, you know? We can diet and exercise and moisturize, but it's very common now to resort to other means in order to stay in the game. So people are starving themselves, injecting themselves, enhancing themselves. And for our protagonist Elizabeth, who is a woman of a certain age now, she's in her 50s, and the movie roles are pretty much dried up for her, which is sadly an all too real reality in Hollywood. But she's been making a modest living as a celebrity dance fitness instructor, but her manager Harvey no longer thinks she's that marketable because she's not attracting a younger demographic, and decides to let Elizabeth go in favor of finding some young fresh blood to lead, you know, a sexier version of her show. And because of this, this is where Elizabeth reaches rock bottom. She feels very insecure about her looks, the fact that she's getting older. So she ends up resorting to some pretty extreme alternative anti-aging methods. She learns about this shady underground organization which offers this new revolutionary anti-aging treatment or procedure, which is called The Substance, which is a luminescent green liquid which, once injected into the user's body, the user undergoes a mitosis-like mutation where their molecular structure divides into two separate bodies. This new second body is the better version of you, so younger, prettier, more perfect. And in this case, the better version of Demi Moore is the vivacious Margaret Qualley, who comes sliding out of Demi Moore's back after it cracks open like a walnut. She calls herself Sue and uses her revitalized sex appeal to get the dance instructor job that Elizabeth lost. But the thing to remember is that both Elizabeth and Sue are one, like they're two halves of the same coin, like one can't live without the other. However, only one of them can be out and about in the real world at a time, whilst the other one lies semi-conscious on the bathroom floor, hooked up to a tube of like liquid food. And like with any beauty regimen, there are maintenance rituals and rules that they both must follow. Like, Sue has to inject herself daily with what's called a stabilizer shot, which is essentially a shot of Elizabeth's spinal fluid. And also they have to swap back every 7 days, otherwise there will be disastrous consequences for them both. And that is all the plot you need to know. The fading star yearning for the youth and beauty of her glory years is something we've seen done many times before in beloved films like All About Eve, Sunset Boulevard, and Death Becomes Her. But we've never seen the subject tackled with such freewheeling insanity as we have in The Substance. Like I said, the response to this film in Cannes was rapturous, okay? People ate this movie up, okay? It got like a 13-minute standing ovation, which I think is one of the longest of the festival this year. Yes, this film is a deliriously entertaining, squirm-in-your-seat horror, and nothing about its message could be described as subtle, but the opportunities for personal resonance with the film's message and the character of Elizabeth are abundant. That's the thing about this film, though. It may appear to be quite superficial, like on a surface level, but once you look beneath the veneer of this character's obsession with their own vanity, you'll actually find there is a lot of, well, pardon the pun, substance. The character of Elizabeth is a tragic figure of her own undoing. Despite all the success that she's had, she still places far too much of her self-worth and value on her appearance. This is without a doubt one of the best performances that Demi Moore has ever given. What's required from her in this role is utterly fearless. Demi Moore was an inspired choice to play Elizabeth because her own personal journey as an actress in Hollywood isn't all that different from Elizabeth's, because Demi Moore was quite a huge star in the 80s and 90s. She was part of the Brat Pack and she appeared in films like Ghost and G.I. Jane. But after a certain point, she kind of stopped showing up in more high-profile projects. She all but disappeared from the limelight, but this movie is gonna throw her back into it. But there were certain scenes in this film where I was wondering if Demi Moore was drawing from her own experiences of being in the business. You have to remember that Demi Moore was arguably at the height of her fame when abuse in Hollywood was at its most rampant. So she probably did have her own experiences of dealing with misogynistic film producers, like the Dennis Quaid in this film, The Harvey, who is an obvious reference to Harvey Weinstein. Couched within all the gore and body horror of this film, there is, a more ever-present horror, which is the way the Hollywood machine treats female talent. And again, that's just another example of how the film does have something to say. But one of the most effective scenes in this film, it's probably my favorite scene actually, it's just a quiet, reflective moment where Elizabeth is excited to go out on a date, and she's getting ready and she puts on a light bit of makeup and gets ready to go out the door, and just before she leaves she catches a glimpse of Sue's beautiful younger image plastered over a billboard that's right outside her house, which then kind of causes her to spiral. She goes back to the mirror, adds more makeup, nearly goes out the door again, goes back to the mirror again, adds more makeup, adds scarves to hide wrinkles and natural imperfections and stuff like that. And it's kind of harrowing to watch her spiral in this scene. Like, you can see the insecurities bubbling over to the surface. But the real tragedy of this scene is that she looked beautiful to begin with. She just couldn't see it. Anyone with a functioning set of eyeballs knows that even in her 60s, Demi Moore is an obviously conventionally attractive woman. But even the Hollywood stars who are painted to be, the most beautiful, deep within them, deep within Elizabeth is, and within all of us, is that little voice that says, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough, or that I hate myself. She develops a hatred for the sexier, younger version of herself, Sue. And as that hatred escalates, the message of this film really sinks in, which is that you can't run away from yourself, okay? And trying to chase that perfect, idealized version of yourself it's unattainable, because perfection isn't real. You can brush this film off as a gory, gratuitous body horror, but deep down at the core, this really is a film about self-acceptance, about being kinder to yourself. Also, Margaret Qualley is fantastic in this, okay? She is fast becoming one of her generation's most exciting rising stars. Like, I love that she is completely unafraid to throw herself into the most weird, peculiar movies. Like, she's done 2 Yorgos Lanthimos films recently with Poor Things and Kinds of Kindness. She did Sanctuary, and now she's done this. And yeah, she is just fantastic, an insatiable screen presence. And again, like Demi Moore, it demanded a lot from her, this role. And yeah, she just throws herself into it with reckless abandon. Loved it. Also, can we please have more movies with Dennis Quaid in? I'd forgotten how much I've loved watching him in movies, and he was just so good as this slimy Hollywood sleaze, yeah. Admittedly, I haven't seen Fargeat's previous film Revenge, but I thought her direction in The Substance was excellent. She really does take her time before she lets the audience know what kind of film this is gonna be, because where the film starts and where the film ends is so drastically different from one another, but the journey is absolutely wild and you have so much fun on that journey. Fargeat's direction also brilliantly emphasizes the isolation that Elizabeth is feeling. You really do pick up on how lonely she feels because of how the way it is shot. Like, there's a lot of shots of her like from behind walking down these very bright corridors which have no windows. It's very surreal, but it's like, because there's no windows, there's no one looking in on her, okay? She's just kind of hidden. And even in her apartment as well, this is also indicative of the loneliness that she's feeling, because while it is quite spacious, it's also quite empty inside, like how Elizabeth is feeling. But yeah, the production design from Stanislas Ray was so subliminal, so clever, really well done there. As a director, Coralie Fargeat wears her horror influences on her sleeve. Observant fans of the genre will notice homages to The Shining, Carrie, Society, The Thing, amongst many others. But one of the most prominent influences is David Cronenberg's The Fly, which is hinted early on when Elizabeth is staring at a fly that's drowning in a glass of wine. And much like Jeff Goldblum's Seth Brundle character in The Fly, Sue herself also undergoes some physical repercussions for her and Sue's actions. This is where immense credit needs to go to the makeup and hair team, who have delivered some of the most jaw-dropping and groan-inducing makeup that we've seen in cinema in recent memory. While some visual effects were required for some of the more bizarre moments in this film, audiences are sure to be blown away just by the sheer level of ambitious practical makeup that's on display here. And while we're on the subject, I do want to talk about its Oscars chances. I don't think The Substance is like a movie the Academy will champion, because it is an out there, bonkers, grotesque body horror movie. They don't really go for it. But I do think this film deserves a nomination for hair and makeup, like for what it pulls off. It is just, it's so memorable. You're gonna walk away from this thinking about the makeup for weeks. The thing is, the Academy used to champion horror movies in the hair and makeup department, but now they're more about the biopics or the period dramas with the big hair. But it would be so cool to see a film like The Substance get a nomination for hair and makeup, okay? Let's start championing and celebrating the horror films for what they're bringing to the big screen. David Cronenberg's The Fly actually managed to win the hair and makeup back in the day. It'd be cool to see, The Substance, which owes a great level of gratitude to The Fly, receive the same accolade, or at least get a nomination. And I do think while the Academy is unlikely to champion a film like The Substance, there is a strong possibility that the film could win a prize at the Cannes Film Festival. I do think it's not impossible for it to win even the Palme d'Or. It's not a guarantee, but we have seen in recent years the juries at Cannes have been gravitating more towards, the big crowd pleaser movies. So think Parasite, Triangle of Sadness, and last year's Anatomy of a Fall. I guess the most apt comparison would be Julia Ducournau's Titan, which won back in 2021, which is, an equally outrageous horror film as well. And it's not so far-fetched to think that a Cannes jury, which is led by, Barbie hitmaker Greta Gerwig, might go for a female-directed, pro-feminist movie, which is all about the unrealistic expectations placed upon women. Cue the impossible to be a woman speech from Barbie. As for my negatives, I think some people will take issue with how heavy-handed this film is in delivering its message, but the thing you have to remember is this film isn't shooting for subtlety, okay? It's deliberately overt, for maximum entertainment reasons. Whether it's the visceral sound design, my lords, the sound in this is just disgusting. Like, whether it's Dennis Quaid eating shrimp or body parts falling off, it's just so gnarly. Or whether it's the throbbing score by Rafferty or the sexified cinematography of Benjamin Kraken, everything in this film is executed with tenacious flair. It's designed to grab your attention, but I do think the editors could have trimmed it down slightly. Like, there were certain bits towards the end where there's like a fight scene between two characters, which just feels really drawn out. Like, it's just like, oh, they're in the living room, now they're in the bathroom, and they're back to the living room again. It's just like, we could probably have got to the destination a lot quicker, really. But the thing is, I was having so much fun that I didn't actually mind the runtime. Also, the final shot of this film is a very full circle moment, and you kind of needed all that extra story for it to happen. So when the final shot is that good and that impactful, I can forgive the runtime. So let's ask them 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch this again? Absolutely. This is without a doubt one of the best films from the Cannes Film Festival. It's most likely going to be in my top 10 favorite movies of 2024 as well. Yeah, absolutely adore this movie. It's going to be added to the collection ASAP. Can't wait to watch it again with a crowd. Oh, I just love this movie so much. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? The thing is with The Substance, it's not going to be for everybody. Like, if you're not a fan of bloody, gory body horror, then yeah, this movie isn't for you, okay? You're probably not going to enjoy it. And there were people that didn't enjoy it. Like, it's just not a movie that's made for them. But if you're a fan of anything from like John Carpenter or David Cronenberg, the horror genre in general, like, you're probably going to love this movie. Or even about movies that are about, striving for perfection, like Black Swan or Whiplash, the very gripping movies with like very intense characters going through the ringer. I think you'll probably get a kick out of this movie. But yeah, if you are curious about it, do check it out. Watch it in a cinema, watch it with a crowd. Oh my God, like watching this with a crowd was such a special experience, and I hope for you to have the same experience. And question number 3, what score to give it out of 10? Besides it being a little bit too long and ladling it on a little thick with its message, I still had a blast watching this movie, like from start to end. Like, I just loved it. So yeah, I can overlook the minor issues that I had with this film and say that The Substance is a 10 out of 10 for me. And yeah, I think it's also a movie that everyone should watch at least once before they die. I know not everyone will, but yeah, it is a movie I want to push on people. It's a movie I want people to, share the discourse with and have a conversation about, because yeah, this movie is wild. Anyway though, guys, that is my review of The Substance. Thank you so much for watching. Are you excited for The Substance? Are you gonna watch it? If you've seen it, what do you make of this film? If you have enjoyed this video, do help me out by hitting the little thumbs up button. And if you want to follow me for more Cannes coverage, be sure to follow me on all my socials. The links for these are in the video description down below. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.